So my name is Emily and I am a horse and dog behaviourist who studied at the Natural Animal Centre in Wales. And today I want to talk to you about how I've been rehabilitating some semi-feral horses who I took on just 3 months ago. Okay, so the case was we had a family of a mare, 2 stallions who were both 3 years old, and a 4-month-old colt. And Tula's probably pregnant again for next spring, so we've got a family of 5 come spring. And they have been just left in a field for, well, pretty much their entire lives. So in Tula's case, she was there from a youngster, and I don't know if she was born there or if she's came, but the farm just said she's there about 10 years. And the boys have all been born there and never left the field. And they haven't had their feet trimmed, they haven't had any wormed, literally nothing. Just everything. In the worst winters, the farm would throw some hay out. That's literally the only contact they've had in this time. So a little bit more about them. We have Tula the mare. She is about 10. The 2 chestnuts, Jackson and Luca, are about 3.5. And they were stallions until just 2 months ago. So those guys. And then Buddy, who is just 6 months old now, and he won't be castrated till next year sometime, but so he's entire at the moment. And okay, so they had no kind of training at all. Obviously they haven't had any contact at all, so as you can imagine, to begin with they were quite anxious with me to even be within their field. So the first things that I did on the kind of road to helping them were first to make sure that all their needs are being fulfilled, because we'll have to make sure that both their emotional and physical health is well to train them. You know, so for example, if they don't feel safe, which is need number 1, so their needs are in a hierarchy, and if they don't feel safe, they can't do any need further up. So, you know, a human example is if you are walking down a dark alley and there's a group of men behind you and they're getting closer and closer, you don't feel safe, you're not gonna stop and just have a sit down and rest, which is number 4. You're not going to get your hairbrush out and just stop and brush your hair, you know. So if you don't feel safe, you can't do anything else. But then on the flip side of that, obviously, you know, if a horse is chronically stressed for years and years, they do have to sleep, but we just have to be mindful that this is not good quality sleep. So we're trying to make sure that we're fulfilling all of their needs. So reaction and response safety, they live in a 15-acre field, so they have that room to run if they want, which is huge for horses as they are social prey animals. And then also having the social side, you know, they've got their family looking out for them, which is especially important for Tula, because a lot of mares they're forced to be single mums, you know, they don't have the dad to look out for them. But it's really nice because Tula, you know, she'll go and she'll kind of do her own thing, but you can tell she's not too worried because she knows dad's right there, you know, so it's really nice that they have this safety from being with their family. Eating and drinking, well, they have constant access to forage in the grass, and they also spend a lot of time eating all the leaves, branches, twigs, all these sorts of things, and even roots. They'll dig up the roots and eat them. So, you know, they're very interesting. They like to eat a big variety of diet rather than just what some horses have, you know, just hay. In the worst case, that's all they've got. So we have body care. They have all sorts of trees that they scratch on and they can roll on. They have a pillow post, which I make, so they like that too. They scratch their faces on that where it's softer. Rest and sleep. They feel safe to sleep. This is the biggest thing. The other point with sleep is making sure that they are physically able, but this isn't really an issue for them because none of them have any physical issues, you know, like arthritis where they can't get down, stuff like that. So they all sleep well, which is really good. Motion, they have room to run and play. This is especially important for Buddy, who is growing a lot. You know, he's learning to use his body and how to be sure-footed. And even they have, you know, they have steep little hills and they have ditches, all these sorts of things which are really important in him growing up. Exploration, I mean, all those needs, they were pretty much fulfilled anyway without anyone even doing anything. But then exploration-wise, I brought in loads of different objects, so cones, bags, water containers, all sorts of things just for them to see, because they have never left their field. And so for them, you can imagine when they do go out, it's going to be huge to see all these kind of man-made things that they've never seen before. So I wanted to kind of stretch their comfort zone while they're at home and they feel safe, before they're expected to leave their home. Territorialism, well, they have their home range where they feel safe. And association, they have their family, and I mean it's lovely to see them all interact, the brothers especially now. Now Buddy's getting a bit older, he's spending more time with his brother, and every day they're playing, and it's really nice to see. So training wise, they're happy horses now, they've always been happy horses, they've been left to it, no one bothers them. But so they're feeling good, and the most important thing that I could do in the initial phase was to do absolutely nothing, okay? Now, because trust, it takes time. You can't teach trust, you have to earn it, okay? So by me just being there and not doing anything to them, they learned that I was safe to be around and that I wasn't going to do anything bad to them, which was the biggest thing. Because although they had no bad experiences of humans, they were obviously a bit cautious because I'm coming into their home range and they don't know what I'm going to do with them, why I'm going to do anything with them, because the only contact they have had with humans is when someone's been took away, which is obviously very stressful for them because, Jack, we don't know where Jack's mum is or where she went, how old she was when she went. So Jackson actually was the least interested in me, and I think that has to do with his mum being taken from him because that's the only one time he's ever really seen humans, so it plays a big part in it. So the plan was, first of all, to have this kind of underlying thought in the back of my mind, how does this make you feel? So, I'm not just worried about getting the job done, it has to be in a way where they are enjoying the process and where they're not being made to feel threatened or frightened or any of those negative emotions. A big part was kind of avoiding nonsense. So if you look at it from the horse's perspective, a lot of what we ask them to do is nonsense. It's not useful to them, It's like, why does a horse want to be tied up for an hour while we groom him? He doesn't have time for that, They only have 24 hours to budget all their behaviours in. So if we try and make them do something they don't want to do, well, they don't want to do it, That's why I kind of when I look at it, I think, is this relevant to them? If it's not, don't do it, So kind of set yourself up to succeed and don't ask them to do things that they are not ethologically prepared to do. And prioritise what's important. So getting them castrated was a priority, but Tula's feet, her feet are okay because obviously she moves so much. She's in a 15-acre field. Her feet have just chipped off and they're not so bad, So I didn't want to rush things and just get it done now, because having her feet, she hasn't had her feet done for 10 months. Waiting a couple of months to make sure that it's done in the correct way is, it's not the end of the world. So it's kind of prioritising what was important for them and strengthening our relationship by me being the bringer of good things, and then doing things that they like doing. So horses, they like scratching, things like this. So trust and respect is earned, not taught. And then we did puzzle games. So horses there's a process where they have to learn. So when you're asking them to do training, a lot of what we ask them to do is kind of an abstract thought. So I used the puzzle games initially before training to teach them this kind of strategy of, if something works, keep doing it. If it doesn't, don't worry, try something else, okay? So you can see here, there's on the left Jack and Buddy playing with their piñata. And Buddy's very clever because he waits for Jack to eat it and he eats all the food. He's a wicked little colt. And then Jack's playing with the cups, he's knocking them over, and Luca's with the tea towel. I had food on top of it and under of it, so they're kind of manipulating things. And these are really good games. I've got something on the website with lots of different games you can look up if you're interested, to kind of keep them busy, especially useful if you've got a horse on box race or something like that. But it's important to kind of use food that's not too high value, depending on your horse. So if you have a horse who is food aggressive because the way they've been previously kept, if you put really high value food like carrots and apples in there, it might make them frustrated. So if they're frustrated, it's not enjoyable, clearly. So I just used grass chaff with them, so that seems to work well. Okay, so, did I talk about shaping? No? Okay, so shaping. So teaching them the behaviour. So if you think about, you have a ladder and you're at the bottom, and what you want to teach them is up the top. So to get up to the top behaviour, you need to break it down into very small steps and then work your way up. Okay, so I needed to get the head collar on to get them castrated. But I couldn't get the head collar on until first they were happy with my space, and then they were happy with me touching them, and then they were happy with me having the head collar on, you see. So you have to kind of work up to things. So if I just show you some examples of... Okay, so this is where we started with. This is Jackson. He was a stallion, 3 years old. So you can see as I'm coming over, he's very anxious and he's kind of just looking at me, you know, like if you see a spider and you're worried about spider, you keep watching it, and that's what he does. He's like, oh, keep watching her, and you can see when he touched my hand, he kind of went, oh, like this. But then, like I said before, Jackson had no interest in me whatsoever. Humans don't need humans, you know. He's been doing his own thing long enough. Whereas if we look at Luca, he is the same age, same, if they, you know, they've both been there together the whole time, but Luca has a very different outlook on life, I think because he still has his mum. He hasn't had that huge attachment breakdown, which we know from a lot of scientific studies causes huge problems, both physical, emotional, social and intellectual problems. So you can see he's very different, and here we go. When the horses are getting more used to you in their space, then you can start to dance, because they need to habituate, which basically means to get used to you moving. Now, if I was to go like this, initially with them near them, they would have gone like this. But if you move further away and then make more erratic movements, then when you get closer, they're already used to these movements. They've seen, oh, I see I do that before, you know, nothing happened, you know. So if you increase how far away you are, then you can increase the intensity of your movement. But whereas with Buddy, he was a lot more cautious, and with Buddy I had to be very, very still to give him the time to explore me. But then, when he is feeling more confident, then you can move farther away and then start to move your body, and then gradually get closer to him and move your body, because, you know, you don't want a horse who, if you just turn, he's going to spook, obviously. And you see at this point, he couldn't even come over to me. But then, all I did with Buddy was just kind of leave him alone and gave him his own time to work me out. And then he actually would spend a lot of time just watching me when I was with his mum, because obviously horses, as a social species, they learn a lot from observational learning. And then, you see, he plucked up the courage to just come over and smell people. And he did this for days. Literally would just stand there and just smell you. And, you know, here's the thing, if you give them the time, they'll make up their mind in their own way. They don't really need you to kind of train them, as it were. Just let them see you're all right. And then gradually moved on to touching them. And this was just a very short instances at the start. And then moving around their body, because, you know, if a horse is fearful of you, they'll want to keep you in front of them. So then I spent a lot of time even just can I walk around there, can I walk around here, just getting them used to me moving around their body. And then, once you can start to stroke them, the best thing to do is to start to scratch them, because that's something that they can relate to, because obviously that's a normal behaviour for horses. So then I would just start to scratch them and then stroking them. And then Jackson seemed to have a kind of change in heart, and he thought that I was not so bad. And then this is Luca. So you can imagine he's a 3-year-old stallion. He has never been touched by humans before. And I mean, I'm sure you know, for a lot of horses, they will not tolerate having their belly touched. You know, they'll swish their tail, they'll show their resistance, or when you touch their leg, they'll lift it up. You know, there's all these signs that horses are telling us, I don't want you to touch there. So when introducing touch into these places with them, I was very careful to do it in a way which made sense to them. So I would scratch him. He already knew that scratching on his neck was nice, that's his favourite place to be scratched. And then before I would touch an area which I knew would be difficult for him, I would warn him. So, you know, like if you go to the dentist, like, I'm just going to drill now, or, you know, if you have this kind of warning, then you feel more confident. Now, I'm not pretending that he knows what belly means before he has heard it, you know, but if you say to him, belly, and then you touch it, and then you're interspersing it with nice scratching, the whole experience is nice, rather than him going, oh God, what is she doing, you know. So, it's the first time I ever touched his back leg, and you can see he's kind of thinking, what is she doing? But he's fine. It's not an issue for him because he's in a 15-acre field. You know, if he wanted to, he could move away, and I wasn't using any food whatsoever. No coercion at all. And this is when I was introducing them to the head collar. And they never worn their head collar. But you can see he's curious. But I mean, it's hard to see on the video, but when you're there, I'm sure you know, you can feel the tension in their bodies, which you can't perhaps see on the video. But you could feel he was tense, but he just kind of just let him have a look, give him the time to explore it. And then Buddy comes to have a look, of course. Can't get rid of him. And then here's Luca. And then when I felt that they were calm just in the head collar's presence, then I could start to touch them with it. And you can see he's not bothered by this at all. You just very gradually shaping the small steps. So can I touch you with it for a second? Oh, wonderful. Can I touch you for 2 seconds? Just gradually building up this time. And this was the first time he'd ever done this, and you can see there's no fear whatsoever. He's just taking it in his stride because I'm not forcing him, and because he feels safe, because he's at home, and because he does have a choice to leave if he wanted to, which I think, you know, those 3 things really make the biggest difference. Feeling safe at home, having your companions nearby, and then being able to go if you thought you wanted to, but they have never gone. In 3 months, they've never said, no, I don't want to do this, which I think really is just because I don't ask them things which are totally unreasonable. And then, so once they will have to put their nose in, then you're working on putting it over their head as well, because obviously that's a different part of the head collar process. This is Buddy now. This was just this week. He's had his head collar on for the first time. And yeah. So I don't really use food training with Buddy, but just when something really fantastic has happened, then I'll just say, oh, well done, you know. And so it's just gradually working out. So this is it, you just put it on for a couple of seconds, and then we had a party. I said, oh, fantastic. Gave him a scratch, and then off we go. And this is introducing pressure to Jackson. This was prior to castration. You can see he had never had his teeth done. He used to do that when he chewed, and B said his teeth were really quiet. He has very poor mouth, she says, though he was obviously sore there. And so just introducing pressure, because you saw before, so when the first time I did, he kind of went, oh, what are you doing? But I didn't increase the pressure, I just kept the same light level, and then as soon as he went like that, I said, oh, yep, well done, fantastic. And now this is Tula, the mare. Now Tula is the one who has had, I think, some interaction with humans, but just because when I showed her the head collar, I put it near Tula's head and Tula went no, and she walked off. So Tula told me that she did not want to do that. So with Tula we had to have a different approach, whereas with the boys we could just gradually get them used to it because they didn't have those negative preconceptions. With Tula we had to do, Jack's giving me trouble, we had to go through a different way. So Tula had to do some training with food, because then we can count in conditions, so we can change those automatic reactions by wearing the head collar with something nice. But prior to that, I wouldn't want to just use the food and then just train the head collar, because what you first want to do is, again, it's the learning to learn stage. So I taught Tula a couple of different things. So I just go, Tula, come, and she comes to target my hand. And then I taught her to stay, and then I taught her let's go, and then she walks with me. So just a couple of things so that she's learning to learn, and then also so that she's getting this kind of bank of positive experiences of me and the training situation. So even like, you know, she sees that bum bag and Tula, she goes, she's like, come on, you know. So she's already feeling more confident before we get to the point where I'm asking her to do something which I know is going to make her feel a little bit uncomfortable, because the head collar holds these connotations for her. And then you can see she's very good with the food. Now when training with food, I will only use simple systems, grass, chaff, so it's really, the grass there is probably tastes nicer. I don't even know why you want it, to be honest, but so you're using very low value food because you don't want to have frustration. But to be honest, you don't really see the frustration with food with these horses because they've never had food withheld. So they don't have these anxieties about food anyway because they've always had plentiful grass, browsing, everything they've wanted really. So you can see she's very calm. And then moving on to the lead rope. So I wanted to teach her the skill, put your nose into the lead rope. Rather than me just kind of doing things to her and then giving her a treat, I wanted to teach her to do it herself so that she's having the choice to do it, not rather me just doing things to her. So first off, we started with the rope because although it's similar to a head collar, it's not quite the same. It's different enough for her not to go, oh, it's the head collar, no. So then I started just teaching her to target the bridge of her nose to it and then gradually asking for more and more each time. So you see, at first that would have got a treat, but then now you're working upwards, and so now she had to kind of make that leap and go, that didn't work. But you see, she didn't get frustrated, she just thought about it and she went, I'll try something else, and then that paid off. And you see, so you can see she's consciously going, ah yes, that's what we do. Oh, and here we go, little pig. It's hard, he's always sleeping. You can never get rid of a shot without him sleeping in it. But so now then, when she's got that skill and she knows how to do it, this is the first time she's seen the head collar for must be 2.5 months since I first showed it to her initially, and then I didn't do anything with it until this point, and you can see how she's not phased at all because she already has the skill. She goes, yep, I know how to do this. And so she puts her nose in beautifully. And when I'm doing this, I'm not using a clicker, but it's similar to a clicker, but I prefer to use my voice when I'm doing it. And you see, then you're gradually leaving it on her head for longer periods. And you'll notice as well, these sessions, I'm not cutting the session so much. They're literally, I'll train for 2 minutes at a time. That's it, 1 or 2 minutes, just because you don't really need to train for longer, really. Horses are so smart, you don't need to do it for hours and hours and hours. Okay, so I would say, 3 months, and I would say they have done fantastically well. They've been honestly the most easiest horses that I've ever trained, and I would say that this is because they feel safe. A lot of horses live in a state of chronic stress, from the day they're took from their mum, you're on your own kid, and it's normally far too early, and then they're moved from place to place, they don't get to have a secure family, even if it's not family by birth, we can, they wouldn't necessarily stay with all of their family forever. We can simulate this with other horses who they get along with as well. So it's not, if your horse doesn't have their family with them, it's not the end of the world. There's other things we can do by providing them with a stable herd. The fact that they're at home, I think, makes a huge difference. If you look at the Dartmoor ponies who get rounded up and then they're just terrified, aren't they? Terrified of everything. And why wouldn't they be, really? If you look at it from their perspective, they've been kidnapped. They were at home doing their own thing. Someone came along, took them somewhere else, away from their family, away from their home. They've been kidnapped. I'm not saying we have to leave all horses where they are, wherever we are. We just have to kind of do our best by them, but we have to kind of be compassionate and realise why they're behaving in this way. And a lot of it is we've took them, So yes, the fact that they're at home, they're in this same field, and I'm just lucky that I've been able to keep them there this time while I've been doing this training with them. And then hopefully we've got to move to a different field next week, just so this one can rest and everything. But it's just the 2 fields over, so they're literally just going to open the gate and they'll be able to make their own way. So this is it's going to be stressful for them. Tula hasn't left the field in 10 years, but we're doing our best for them because they're with their family, and stress. Okay, so another point is that they're free to leave. Not once have I haven't done anything. I haven't put them. I did try to do a little pen to do training in, just because Buddy always wants to be involved with everything. But you can't keep Buddy out of a pen either, so it's no use. So I just train. I just wait for one of them to wander off, then I go and train that one. So it's all kind of working around them. But yeah, they're free to leave. They don't have to do this training, and I'm not using food which is so rewarding that they're like, oh god, I have to do it even though I don't want to. Like if there's some things that, like if someone said to me hold a snake, I'd be like, no thanks. If they give you £100, I'd go, all right then, But I wouldn't want to hold the snake. So food can coerce as well. We have to be aware of that. Just because we're training with food doesn't mean that everything is nice about it. There's a lot more to it than that. The fact that they had no experience with people made them a lot easier to train with a horse who has a bad experience. I think it was really important in the way they come on, and also it's been at their pace. Name is on Whiskers. So I'm sure you'll know that a lot of associations across the world will kind of promote whisker trimming as if it's something good to do, but in Germany it's actually illegal, so it's obviously not quite right. So the whiskers, I've got a picture of Buddy's muzzle. You can see how dense the whiskers under his chin are, and this is because horses, they literally cannot see here, and especially where they're grazing, they have to be able to detect what they're eating to avoid eating poisonous plants. So each whisker has a region of the sensory cortex in the brain linked to it. That's just how important they are. They literally have a tiny part of the brain attached to them. They're also extremely sensitive, and they have a rich nerve supply. They judge texture and distance to things. This is important, especially for horses who are stabled and there's kind of hooks and walls and all sorts of things. A lot of horses, if you get an eye injury, that's huge for a horse, isn't it? So if we take off their whiskers, you're much more likely to have injuries like this. The whiskers, detect how close they are to the surface, and they're also used when they're communicating with another horse when they are mutual grooming. So I'm sure you know when they're mutual grooming, they are detecting the kind of different relaxation and how the muscles are moving to where they're doing it, and they can communicate with each other and tell each other what to do. So it's another part of their bonding process, which is really important. So so what can you do to help with this? You can pledge not to trim your horse's whiskers, and then you can tell a friend why not. So this is kind of the big thing that we're going for at the moment. I've got a lot of people. I'm waiting to hear back from the top professionals in the world, and we're all kind of uniting to stop these. Because some people say, it's not important, it's such a small thing, there's terrible things going on in the horse world, but then, we may as well do what we can, start small and then do more. Okay, did you have any questions?
No questions, but I think what you're doing is amazing. So hats off to you guys. It's just incredible.
Thank you very much. Very kind. Yes. So it's just very small. Small acorns on a big oak. It's very small at the moment, but we're hoping to kind of make a big difference all over the world. Do you subscribe to Epona? Yes. Well, we've just got a video series with Epona TV, which is fantastic. If you haven't heard of it before, it's just amazing. She has videos from the top scientists all over the world on farriers, vets, nutritionists, everyone. Really, really fantastic. And she's just come and videoed us, and she does really interesting blogs, and it's all for the horse's welfare. It's not really kind of slanted to any particular training technique or anything like that. It's just for the horses, so that's really good.
I missed the beginning. Where did they come from? Where did your family?
Well, they were actually just down the road from me, 2 fields over. They're in the same field, well not same field, they're in the land that the farmer who I rent land from. They're on there, and the man who has them there, he literally didn't pay his rent for 22 years. He's like a family friend, and the lovely farmer just let them stay there for so long, and he's had enough, which is fair enough really, you know, we've been there for 22 years, it's a lot of money per week he's missed out on there, so, and the man didn't want them, when he said you have to take them, he said don't want them, and they were going to be shot, so, yeah, but I mean, initially I just said I would have them to train them and then find them nice homes in pairs, but then, they're just, you know, it's just so interesting. If you have a look at our YouTube or downstairs on the computer, we've got some of their behaviours up, you know, it's just fascinating to watch them interacting.